The Renault Espace is a large multi-purpose vehicle from French carmaker Renault. Generations 1 and Euro 3 were sold under the Renault brand but manufactured by Matra. The current fourth-generation model, which seats 7 passengers, is an all-Renault product. The Renault Grand Espace is a long-wheelbase version with increased rear legroom and boot size. The name Espace means space in French. The Espace is often credited as being the world's first MPV, a claim Renault promotes. The van-based 1950 Volkswagen Type 2, also known as the Combi, and the 1956 car-based Fiat 600 Multipla, popularized the versatile multi-seater concept some 30 years prior to the Espace, and the concept had been tried several times before that, an early example being the 1935 Stout Scarab, and there was the very similar in-concept Plymouth Voyager which Lee Iacocca claims was proposed by himself in 1973 when he was working at Ford, although he never got the chance to build it until he went to Chrysler. In 1984, the same year the Renault Espace was launched. Espace I. The Espace's design was originally conceived in the 1970s by the British designer, Fergus Pollock, who was working for Chrysler UK, at their design centre at Whitley, in Coventry. Later Matra, who were affiliated with Simca, the then French subsidiary of Chrysler, were involved in partnership in the design, spearheaded by Greek designer Antonis Valanis. The Espace was originally intended to be sold as a Talbot, and to be a replacement for the Matra Rancher leisure activity vehicle. Early prototypes used Simca parts, and hence featured a grille reminiscent of the Simca 1307. In 1978, 6 years before the Espace went into production, Chrysler UK and Simca were sold to the French company PSA Peugeot Citroën, and the Espace design was given to Matra. PSA decided the Espace was too expensive and too risky a design to put into production, and Matra took their idea to Renault. In 1982, Pierre Heman, who was working on the comparative testing for automobiles at the French National Consumer Institute, made his design for an ideal car and proposed it to Renault. The Matra concept became the Renault Espace. The design featured a fiberglass body mounted on a warm galvanized steel chassis, using the same technique and assembly line at the factory as the Talbot Matra Murano. The introduction of the Espace required the relatively small factory to cease the production of the Murano, to make room for the Espace. The Espace was launched by Renault in 1984. After a slow start, a mere 9 Espaces were sold in the first month after launch. Consumers realized the benefits of the MPV concept and the Espace became popular. It was sold in the United Kingdom from August 1985. In 1984, American Motors Corporation announced it would begin to market the front-wheel drive Espace in the U.S. The minivan was exhibited to consumers at the 1985 Chicago Auto Show, but AMC's negotiations with Matra continued over the vehicle's import pricing. Plans for the Espace to be launched in the U.S. ended with the purchase of AMC by Chrysler. In 2004, BBC's motoring show Top Gear began a historic racing series with 2 E-Spaces, a Toyota Previa, a Toyota Master Race, a Mitsubishi Space Wagon and a Nissan Serena. The E-Spaces came first and second. Facelift. Building upon its success, the Espace was revamped in 1988 with most of the Talbot Simca content being replaced by equivalent Renault parts. The most obvious cosmetic exterior difference between the very first E-Spaces and the revamped post-1988 models were the changed headlights. The forward slanting lights with orange indicator casing of the original Espace were replaced with backward slanting lights with a clear indicator casing. Espace 2, a heavily revised Espace, was launched in 1991, adopting the Renault family look to replace the Talbot-themed styling of the original. This was essentially a reskin of the original car, with a new dashboard and other interior improvements. The chassis was unchanged. Espace F1, in 1995, Renault displayed a show car called the Espace F1, which was created by Matra to celebrate both the 10th anniversary of the Espace and Renault's involvement in Formula One racing. Though it resembled an Espace with substantial bodywork changes, the vehicle had more in common with a Formula One car. The vehicle used a lightweight carbon fiber F1-style chassis in combination with a carbon fiber reinforced E-Space J63 series body. Powering the E-Space F1 was an 800 HP 3.5-litre, 40-valve Renault RS5 V10 engine, as used in the 1993 Williams Renault FW15C. As with an F1 car, the V10 engine was mid-engined and the power was transmitted to the rear wheels via a 6-speed semi-automatic gearbox, also used in the Williams FW15C. The engine and transmission allowed the E-Space F1 to accelerate from 0 to 100 km/h in 2.8 seconds, 0 to 200 km/h in 6.9 seconds and carry on accelerating to a top speed of 312 km/h. With the use of carbon ceramic brakes, the E-Space F1's deceleration was no less impressive than its acceleration, and could accelerate from 0 to 270 km/h and brake to a complete halt in under 600 meters. This version of the E-Space was featured in driving simulator game Gran Turismo 2. Frank Williams was a noted passenger of the E-Space F1, chauffeured by Williams driver David Coulthard. The E-Space F1 currently resides in the Matra Museum in France. E-Space 3, the third-generation E-Space arrived in 1997, with the long-wheelbase Grand E-Space coming to market the following year. The most notable feature of the E-Space 3 was the radically futuristic interior. The E-Space 3 featured a plastic, GRP, body over a galvanized independent steel chassis. The E-Space 3 shared much of its running gear with the Laguna of the same era. As stated elsewhere, although Renault badged, the E-Space 3 was Matra-built. A number of third-generation E-Spaces were used as bases for NGV and taxi conversions for the Kuala Lumpur International Airport and the Kuala Lumpur Central Transportation Hub in Malaysia, rebranded as Enviro 2000s. The third-generation E-Space was the last to be built by Matra and indeed the last automobile. Following an end of production of the E-Space 3 for Renault, Matra and MG Rover discussed a possible deal for the latter to build and market E-Spaces, but it failed to happen. E-Space 4. The fourth-generation E-Space arrived in 2003, being the first entirely Renault-developed and produced model. The E-Space is 90% recyclable and contains numerous weight-reducing materials, thus cutting fuel consumption. The aluminium doors and bonnet are some 20 kg lighter than steel equivalents. Its styling was reflective of a new design direction at Renault, symbolized by the radical Velsatis and Aventine models, marking a major departure from the previous model, which also saw the range moved up market. In 2006, the E-Space received a thorough facelift and added new 2.0-litre and 3.0-litre DCI engines. In October 2010 a slight redesign was unveiled at the Paris Motor Show, with minor cosmetic changes, LED lights and improved equipment. On June 22, 2012, Renault officially announced a restyling of the E-Space, the second important after 2006, incorporating the family-feeling design concept of Laurens van den Akker. Also, it introduced new 2.0 DCI engines, in order to meet the French regulations regarding the limitations on CO2 emissions. The car will continue in production until the launch of a new generation within the next few years. The E-Space was discontinued in the UK. The fourth-generation E-Space came third from the bottom in the Top Gear Satisfaction Survey 2005. Safety: the E-Space 4 passed the Euro NCAP car safety tests with following ratings. The 2003 E-Space featured in British motoring TV show Fifth Gear where it was crashed into a 1990s Land Rover Discovery at 64 km/h. The passenger compartment in the E-Space was kept fairly intact, but the dummy in the Discovery was smashed between the seats and the dashboard, leaving no survival possibilities. Reviews: the Renault E-Space 4 has received very good reviews from motoring journalists and is often cited as one of the best vehicles in the large MPV class. The E-Space is the MPV to beat all MPVs. It's spacious, luxurious and drives well for a car this size. And there's no question of it being mistaken for anything else on the road. Autocar: the interior is well executed, but even the Grand E-Space isn't that spacious with 7 on board. Build quality is impressive, as are the diesels, but avoid petrol power. Auto Express, the restyle hasn't dented the visual appeal of the Espace. Yet although the interior is more practical, it's simply not as versatile as the cabins of rivals such as the new Ford Galaxy, or upmarket competitors like Land Rover's Discovery. Car 4, gigantic, against, a bit unwieldy, Parkers. Pros, masses of cabin room, superb long-distance cruiser, strong DCI engines. Cons, can be expensive to buy, seats don't fold flat, sheer size makes it tricky to maneuver. Top Gear, the last word in MPVs. The Renault Espace is simply vast, but manages to be stylish and unconventional at the same time. Available in regulation and Behemoth Grand guises either as the ultimate solution for those with a distrust of birth control. What car? Decent space for people, if not their luggage. The Espace offers a refined drive and some refined engines, but some rivals are cheaper and more versatile. See also, Renault Modus, the mini MPV of the manufacturer, Renault Scar copyright Nick, the compact MPV of the manufacturer, references, footnotes. Citations. Further reading, Chapman, Giles. Classic Cars, the Renault Espace. The Independent. Retrieved September 7, 2014. External links, official Renault Espace UK spec page, gallery and historical data.